Good morning, everyone. My name is Deepa Iyer, and I'm so pleased to be here in community with all of you. I want to thank Jim Simpson for inviting me. It's an honor to be here. So I imagine that many of us are arriving here carrying something heavy, worries about the world, concern for loved ones, uncertainty about what lies ahead for our country. This morning, I'm carrying the image of a little boy named Liam. You may have followed his story. He's a 5-year-old boy wearing a Spider-Man backpack who was taken by immigration agents from the driveway of his home in Minneapolis. And if you were following that story, you may know that just yesterday, a federal judge ordered the release of little Liam and his father, thankfully. What struck me when I read the judge's short but powerful opinion is that it included two passages from the Bible, Matthew 19:14 and John 11:35. While I did go to Catholic school for many years, I have not picked up a Bible in a while, so I looked these passages up. Matthew 19:14 reads, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." John 11:35 has just two words: Jesus wept. I imagine that the judge included these passages to remind us of the preciousness of our children, all our children, and of our responsibility to treat one another with care and compassion, as Jesus always did. Faith traditions of all origins are rooted in the idea and the practice of shared responsibility and collective care. That we see the humanity in each other, the transformation in ourselves, in our communities, and in our systems happens when we are in solidarity. And that solidarity is something we practice over and again, both in private and in public, while centering what is good for all of us, not just some of us. You might be thinking, that sounds nice, but it's really hard to live out, especially now, in a nation where the fissures and cracks are being exposed more clearly and visibly than ever before. Especially now when the headlines are too hard to keep track of and the challenges feel overwhelming, resembling for what many are calling the polycrisis. So what is our responsibility as individuals and as a collective in this moment? What's our responsibility to children like Liam? How do we belong in a fractured nation? And how do we make space for our grief and overwhelm, our outrage and our despair, and still find the courage to stay present, connected, and engaged? These are the questions that led me to create the social change ecosystem framework, which I would love to ask Luke to show on the screen. Thank you. This framework is rooted in the wisdom of movements from the past and the present, and it rests on a really simple truth. Lasting change happens when many people contribute in different but coordinated ways. This framework is a map, as you can see, and it has three main components. First, we are invited to think about our sacred values. The middle circle in the map often is the place where we can identify these. And from just listening today, it's clear that for all of you, collective care, hope, and justice are all core values. Then we embody these values by identifying roles that we can play, both as individuals and also as a collective, whether that's a church, a school, or an institution. And then finally, this framework reminds us that we can only play our roles if we are deeply connected with others in an ecosystem. This idea of an ecosystem is not new to faith traditions. It's this recognition that we're all interconnected to each other and to a spiritual force. In your tradition, it's described as the body of Christ at times. In the Hindu tradition I was raised in, it's called satsang. In Buddhism, the Sangha. In Islam, the Ummah. Inside of our ecosystems, we can see how our different roles can be sustained. For example, some of us are caregivers and healers, the ones making meals, offering rides, sitting with grief, and tending to the emotional and spiritual wounds that so often go unseen. Some of us are builders, creating programs, legal clinics, mutual aid networks. Some are storytellers, documenting what's happening so that it isn't forgotten when the headlines move on. Some of us are weavers, connecting people across neighborhoods and faiths and institutions. Others are frontline responders, putting their bodies on the line as they protest. Some are disruptors, challenging unjust systems and raising hard truths that cannot be ignored. Others of us are guides, mentoring new people, bringing them in, reminding us of historical patterns. Some are visionaries, helping us imagine and move towards a more just future, while others are experimenters, trying out new approaches to reach that North Star. So in this map, these 10 roles are a compass for how we can respond with deliberate intent and sustainability. In fact, this is a tool that can be used for all seasons of our lives, whether we're just waking up to the privileges that we have and to the injustices around us, whether we're ready to engage and even stretch ourselves beyond what we've done before, or whether we're simply exhausted from playing one too many roles over the course of our lives. This framework is an invitation to get started, to create depth, and to reset. And it's not only for individuals, it's also for institutions as well. I've noticed in my work with this framework that faith communities are natural ecosystems of care and connection, of moral clarity and memory. In fact, around us, we see this. Churches are healers, hosting grief circles. Churches and congregations are frontline responders, even opening their buildings as sanctuary for their immigrant neighbors. Interfaith groups are weavers. I think about the many faith leaders who were in Minneapolis just last week from all around the country to show common cause. And clergy are gentle disruptors. We've seen that when we see the faith leaders who've been at immigration hearings just to bear witness. I want to share 2 examples that have inspired me. In Los Angeles and Orange County, the godmothers of the disappeared, who are women of faith, hold weekly vigils outside federal detention centers to pray for the return of those detained and even deported. They pray, they sing, they bear witness so that those inside might know that they're not forgotten. And right here in our backyard last year, when immigration agents approached an elementary school in Columbia Heights, Bill Mefford, the director of the Festival Center, sprung into action. He invited a group of clergy and community organizers to gather for a prayer walk to show public solidarity in a moment of crisis. These stories show us that we don't need everyone doing everything. We need everyone doing something when our communities are in need and doing that something together in an ecosystem. I want to leave you with 2 quotes that I often turn to when I feel overwhelmed and uncertain. One is from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who reminded us we are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. This is the time for vigorous and positive action. I balance Dr. King's powerful call to action with a reflection from the writer Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who said, "Ours is not the task of fixing the entire world at once, but of stretching out to mend the part of the world that is within our reach." So when that familiar feeling arises, I should be doing more. I should be doing something. I invite you to pause and listen more closely. Instead of asking, am I doing enough? Ask, where do I belong in this ecosystem right now? What do the communities within my reach need from me? What gifts am I being called to offer? In what roles can I stretch myself to take on more risk to use the privilege and agency I have? And who am I meant to walk alongside in this season? We'll have a chance to dig a bit deeper into these questions during the workshop after service this morning. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of your ecosystem today, and for the ways that you continue to choose community and solidarity, especially when it is hard, and not just in one moment alone, but as a personal and spiritual practice and a way of life. We are all so grateful. Thank you.